Working. So basically this session is on source code management using Git. So since you've been using some sort of version control system in your company, so I believe some of you might be using SVN, Git, Perforce, highly unlikely because it's a paid software and most of the startups don't use it. And in case you go to Google, Microsoft and other companies, they will use Perforce for their actual product development, but just for playing around, they will use Git because they can't risk the capabilities of Git and use that Git for their actual products. So I'll just basically go through a little bit of practical stuff, a little bit of theory, and then we'll shift to a more of practical thing. Okay. So regarding my history, I basically work for Citizen and I'm basically around 1 year with Drupal. So I have a different story. Like people become managers after a developer. So I was a manager around 1.5 years. I got pissed off, so I came back. So I believe I won't go to this manager stuff again. So basically I'll cover this thing like introduction to source code management, then introduction to Git, then architecture of Git, then this thing is like difference between centralized version control system and distributed version control system, and then after that we'll check into some common Git commands, and after that we'll get our hands dirty and do some practical stuff on D.O. Okay, so first thing is like introduction to source code management. So how many of you have used SVN? So you've been using that in for your development in a company, and Git. Okay, right. So in fact, around case we look our history, we've been using SVN from quite a while, but from past 7 months we have shifted to Git because since D.O had also shifted to Git, so it wasn't a new, learning two technologies wasn't a good thing for us, and apart from that we felt like we should be in sync with D.O. So we shifted to Git, and once we shifted to Git we found like it was way more powerful than SVN in terms of its compression algorithm and other things and other features it provides in comparison to SVN. So why this source code management is necessary. So back in college we just the projects which we used to do are quite small, so it hardly around 100 lines maybe. So keeping that history of that particular file is not that important. But while we get into some production stuff, we don't write 100-line code, we write around 1,000 lines or maybe around more than that. So to keep track of that particular code, you have to use some sort of source code management, right? So because suppose you work on the day 1, you write around 10 lines, day 2 around another 10 lines, and on day 1 week it gets over and you have some workable software, right? And around the second week comes and you do some sort of messy thing in the code and you realize that this thing is not working anymore. So in case you are working without any source code management thing, we are nowhere because we don't have that workable software history along with us. So basically source code management helps you to do that. We have a history of each and everything which we had done in the past. So collaboration is, this is the history thing and collaboration. So while we are working on any project, we are working with other teams. There are developers, there are themers, there are QA guys. So, and we are not sitting in one place and doing our project, right? So we need to collaborate with our teammates, and there could be an instance the module file, one particular feature which you are implementing, around 3 or 4 guys are working on that. So you need to collaborate with your teams. This is the second thing which source code management software are used for. And this release note generation, so this is basically tagging and all other stuff which I will include later on. And change notification. Change notification is that suppose one developer does something, the other developer can get easily notified he has committed so and so thing to this particular file, and he could see this, the code committed by that guy. So basically it's used for this. So let's talk about the introduction to Git. So Git is basically a distributed version control system. and it was created by Linus Torvalds. I believe since we are working on an open source content management system, so we should be aware of Linus Torvalds. So he's the guy who built Linux, and he's the current maintainer of Linus Torvalds, and he's also the one who built Git. And in case we talk about Linus Torvalds, he's sort of not a nice guy to talk with. Okay, so he talks in some sort of high level, and he thinks, and in fact, like the last blog which he wrote like, "Hello world, I'm your god." So he's that sort of guy. So, and why is it important for us to learn? Okay, so like first thing is that like we need to use some sort of source code management system. It could be for our internal projects or some other thing for keeping track of your other modules. The good thing with Git is that since Drupal.org is shifted from CVS to Git, so in case you want to maintain some modules and want to contribute some theme or module to D.O, you need to learn Git. So this is the prime, like for every Drupal.org user, like learning Git, and in case you want to contribute something, like learning Git is quite important. So this is the Git architecture. So like we have this thing, we have this working directory, okay, and then we have this index or cache, and then we have this local repository, and then we have this remote repository, right? So let's, in case get our hands dirty, that would be a good thing to do. Okay. So in case I talk about the working directory, this particular directory which I have created is my working directory, this DCD. Okay, so this particular code has not yet been versioned. So we need to keep the history of that. So in case we start version controlling it, so we initialize Git over here. I'll cover all of these commands later on, so I just needed to get a bit of introduction to this working directory. Git init. Okay, right. So we have now two things with us. In fact, in case we talk about Git, we have three things with us. Now we have a working directory, and we have this index or cache, and we have this local repository. We are still to have this thing. Okay, so now let's proceed to this difference between a centralized version control system and distributed version control system. So basically, like in case of Git, we have this thing called local repository, and in case we go to SVN or some other centralized version control system, we don't have this thing. Okay, right? So we just have one repository which is lying somewhere. Okay, and the worst part of this thing is that unless and until you are connected to internet, you can't work, right? So suppose there could be an instance in case the guys are working on SVN, and suppose, take for instance, the internet goes off. So he can work, but he can't keep any history of the work which he is working on, right? So same is the case with this guy who is working at client 2, the same is the guy who is working at client n. They can work individually, but locally they can't keep any history because they're not connected to internet. And they have to commit to this particular central thing to keep the history of the software, right? But in case of Git, the thing is quite different. They have this thing called local repository. Okay? So this particular local repository helps the developers to keep a history within their system itself. So once they can keep on working centrally, and once they get the internet back, they can push to this remote repository, right? So this is the thing which Git is like distributed version control systems are better than the centralized version control system. So And apart from that, like merging and all other functionalities of Git is really powerful. So, but it needs a bit of discipline, because in case we mess around with the merging capabilities of Git, we could land up in a situation which is really unavoidable. So let's get our hands dirty now. So these are some of the common commands in Git which we use, like it's git init. Basically, it is used to initialize repository in Git, and git add. So git add, like we see a thing called index over here, right? Sorry, is this thing visible? So git add is basically used to put that piece of code in this cache, or we also call this staging. And after that, we have a command called git commit. Git commit is basically used to put your piece of code to local repository. So once you commit your code, your code starts getting the history for that particular code starts getting created. And still, we are still on local. So once you push that particular piece of code to the remote repository, then you have a centralized place for all the guys from where they can pull. So let's get working. And apart from that, like push, pull, branch, we'll cover all of these. So I would basically create a sandbox project on d.o. So this is like, I believe all of you might be having d.o IDs, right? So in case you want to play around, I mean, you can also do the same thing which I'm doing with your laptop. So suppose I create any dummy project, like in case we go to d.o node add project, this thing, and we create a module, and let's give it anything. Let's call it community and give some status under active development, and let's call it dcd12 demo module for dcd12. Okay, so we save this thing. Net चल रहा है?
One question.
Yeah.
It is loaded.
Yeah.
So do we have any kind of GUI with Git, or it's just command based?
It does have a GUI, I think so, because I don't know. It's called GitK, right?
GitHub.com.
No, GitHub.com is a different thing. So GitHub.com is,
For Windows.
yeah. I believe there are some GUI based things for GitHub, Git too. Because like in case you are working with Eclipse or NetBeans, you have inbuilt capabilities. I mean, like you don't have to put the commands to commit or add the files.
It integrates with NetBeans as well.
Yeah, it integrates with NetBeans, it integrates with Eclipse.
Yep, it does.
Suppose this thing, this shouldn't be. We are using Drupal.org servers as a remote repository, okay? And we'll make our custom module and commit it over there. So to add any module or to start committing to any remote repository, you need to have some sort of authentication. Like authentication in Git is basically two ways. One is HTTP based, wherein you need to provide your username and password, and another is SSH based. So SSH based is the one which is used more. So, and like for that you need to create an SSH key and add that particular SSH key in your remote repository. Like in our case, the remote repository is the d.o, so we'll add that particular SSH key in over here. So once you log in into your d.o profile and go here, okay, right? So you'll get this option, add a public key. Okay, right? So basically click here. So this is a new user which I have created on my Linux platform. So I'll basically create a new SSH key for this particular user and put that in d.o. So there's some commands for which for adding SSH key, and in case like I have written it down somewhere. So this blah, 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 blah. So we have to create this. Let's close this. Okay, so I usually keep this thing empty. So like in case we see the hidden files, there would be a file called .ssh created in your home directory. So I'll just clear this thing. So what is this SSH thing like? This is basically a pair of public and private key. Like public key is this one, ID RSA. I'm sorry, this is your private key and this is your public key. Like you have to put this public key to any remote repository where you want to commit. So, and this is your private key. So based upon this public and private key authentication pair, only you can commit from this particular system. Like no other guy can commit to your remote repository unless and until you give permission to that guy. So what we do, like we basically check the contents of this public key, cat, and copy this and dcd demo key, right? Paste. So basically we save this thing, right? Like the and so till the time it's loading, let's talk about some of the contributions to d.o. Like since while we are working on any client project or something, like the module could be very client specific, but like just spend some time with that module and just see like you could improve that particular module and put that thing to d.o, because that's how the whole community is working. So in case you're feeling like you're not that good PHP developer and you're still to get into that particular mode, I mean, module is not just the thing which you can contribute as do as a contribution on d.o. There's a couple of things like the issue testing, the documentation. The best thing I found was documentation, because the module which I had committed took a long time for approval. So I just started fiddling around with the documentation, because documentation, like it's quite easy. Like there's a typo error, there could be small technical error which you can edit, and it's a good thing to do because that's how the open source is working. And apart from that, it is good for your d.o profile too. It is stuck again. Yeah.
Can you also explain what the .git file does?
Yeah, I'll go into that. That thing. I'm sorry, this thing is a bit slow. So basically, this adding of SSH key is sort of over. So I'll basically use the SSH key which I have added for my another account. I'm sorry. So this is the other user which I have. So I have already added a SSH key over here. SSH. Okay, so this thing is already added. So mkdir dcd dcd 12 cd dcd square 12. It's gone. So let's do this thing. So instead of creating a new project, what I'll do, like I'll use my pre-existing sandbox project and show what happens. So this is another module which I was trying to put into D.O. So I'll basically clone this particular module to my local system. So cloning means to get that particular this is a clone, to get that thing from a remote repository to your local. So I'll basically make a clone of this particular git clone. CD So like I have the module which was lying there on that remote repository, so I have a local copy of that. So these are the usual files which we have, like readme.txt, inc, info, install and all those stuff. So let's check. So what I did, like I got that module from that remote repository to my local thing. So let's play around with readme.txt. I'll just add another section over here. DCD demo. This is a dummy readme. So like I have added one particular one file to this readme.txt. So I'll do this git status. Sorry. So the one good thing with Git is that, like comparative to SVN, is that like Git itself tells you what to do, because everything you want to do next is here. So it is telling like this particular file has been modified. So what you want to do? So whether do you want to add means to put that particular file here, indexing it, right? And in case, and checkout means, like in case I do git checkout and the file name, it means to get that line which I had written to remove that thing from the file. So in case, like in our case, I want to add that particular new line to index. So I'll do git add readme.txt, right? So I'll get commit -m. So committing is from index, put the thing to the local repository. So committing would comes with an argument -m, then you have to write your message over here. So in case you don't put this message, it will pop up your default text editor. It could be Vim, Emacs, or Nano, whatever it could be. So I'll also DCD demo commit. Okay, delete this, leave this thing. So I committed it, right? So we went from working directory to here, so we still need to push this thing over here. Okay, so right now in case I go to this file, so it shows 8 commits, and that thing was somewhere around 15 weeks ago. So I need to push this particular change. Git branch, okay, git push origin. Copy. Okay, so I have pushed that particular change to the remote repository, right? So in case I refresh the page, it should come here. Just 1 second, something went wrong. some sort of network latency. I'm sorry? No, it should become like it shows there's some sort of network latency because that thing has been pushed already. It shows over here. Yeah, caching could be a thing. Caching could be. If caching is the one thing in Drupal, like it, sometimes you have to do the same task all over again. And no, it should work. It's not working. I don't know where it went. So technically, what should happen, like you should get a commit over here, but it's not coming. It seems to be a strange thing. So the thing is that what this push thing is sort of signifying. Since I have added this SSH key, so to d.o, so only I can push to this particular module. So unless and until I add some other maintainer to this particular module, no other guy can push it. So so this is the authentication thing which is happening. This thing stopped working. I don't know. It's so. दो मिनट चाहिए बस okay so nice so since we are running short of time, so I'll just show you a little bit of thing like what happens in .git file. So ls minus all. So like when we are working with SVN, what happens, like suppose we have a folder within a folder. So what SVN does, like it recursively creates that .svn file in each of that particular folder. And suppose you have a big file and you've been versioning it using SVN, and there's the same file you've been versioning it using Git. Try rm-rf that file and see the amount of time that SVN file will take and the amount of time that Git file will take. Git will go in quickly because the compression algorithm used in Git is far better than SVN, and there's no useless stuff happening. So in Git, everything is happening in this file .git. Git minus all. So in case we go to this file git objects, so this is your everything. So I do git clear git hist. Sorry. So we see the hashtags of all the commits. So first one is DA5302E, then it's the date, then the name and all that stuff. So where this particular commit is being made and how it is being compressed and how it is being saved in Git. So this object file is the one. So in case we look at the first two letters DA, go to CD DA. Okay, right? Then you look at this file. This in this particular commit, I had only committed one thing. So look at this. Since this is a short form which I'm using, so technically this hist would be a bit longer. So that would be shown by using git log. So git log, where is it? Yeah. So DA. So this is the folder, and this is your commit. And just look there. This is the same thing which is over here. So just look into this file. I'm sorry. So this is your code which got compressed, and this is how your history is being saved. So I don't know what compression algorithm they use, and the amount of compression is really small. So to comes to really bytes level. Because I have seen this, because I have experienced removing the same file which I use in SVN and the same file used in Git. So Git is like fast than SVN. So I guess that's it for today. So this is The Nature is Calling. Basically, I work from Dharamshala, like Sirijan Dauladar. So I believe most of you would be coming to McLeodganj or hanging out over there. So this is a message for you all. Like, there is a group of 20 people working in Drupal over there. So just in case next time you come to Dharamshala, just don't forget to say hi or something, right? So that's all for my side, because of this net thing, I couldn't show the live how the things are happening. So in case any questions or something, so yeah.
Ashish, I have a question. One more thing is, if there is a recursive folders,
Yeah.
like you have written there rush and something, there is recursive folders as well. But in SVN we can pull up till that folder as well. But in JIT, if you pull on the remote server, it pulls all of the codes.
Yeah, got your question. Yeah, I don't think so. Like, in case you get revert or check out that particular file or folder, it will just pull out that file.
Yeah, not that file. It will pull all of the folds, all of the files. Like
No. Don't think so. Maybe I could be wrong. But yeah, it could be, yeah, because. Okay.
I'm working on different folders. If I pull on server, like I'm in Rush, and now I'm pulling in the recursive folder, there is Rush 1, right? And I'm pulling all of the files, but it should pull for that particular folder. It is pulling all of the files.
I think like it happened. Yeah, it happened because of this thing, because we have this beautiful thing called git add dot. Git add dot, what it will do, it will push, make a history of all the things which was done before in that particular file. So instead of using git add dot, use the git add, then the file name which you want to commit. Because git add dot, suppose I'll go here. What I do, like I modify readme.txt, I modify this install file and module file. But I just want to commit the readme.txt. So I'll do git add readme.txt and commit it. Suppose in case I do git add dot, it will commit the change of this readme.txt, .info, .module, everything. So it is sort of a practice which I believe we don't follow, and usually end up into a bad scenario, because these kind of things happened with me too. And merging is really powerful tool, which I am not that comfortable with, because recently what happened, like we merged staging to dev, and I got a hell lot of conflict. And features is another thing which is creating a really bad problems for this merging, because features is not our own code. Feature is some automated generated code, and in case the same guys are committing to same feature, and we land up into a mess. So it is basically some sort of development practice which we need to get into our working cultures, due to which we can avoid such kind of things.
Can you work on Windows?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. There is a Raghav.
.gid.
Yeah, there's some UI.
Git bash.
Yeah, Git bash or something. It gives you same interface as this thing and allows you to add SSH keys and all the stuff. One beautiful tutorial on this thing, I believe you must have read this, Git immersion. Okay. Like, in fact, like we were doing some sort of work for Jacob in January, and Jacob was the one to recommend this Git immersion tutorial to us. So it will do you all of the hands-on stuff on. Yeah, it will. Yeah.
Before any more questions, just want to announce that there are 2 more sessions lined up for